Welcome back to another episode of Blind Garage Yarning Cars. On this episode, we're going to call it Motorcycling with the Big Fella. The Big Fella on bikes. Now, a lot of you will know the Big Fella's my adopted dad, my best mate, knew my dad, a great man, does so much for me, and as I said, my best friend, my confidant, great bloke. Over the years, we've had some crazy adventures with bikes and four-wheel drives and cars. But when it comes to bikes, I love my road bikes, love my Suzukis, but I also like some dirt action. So does the Big Fella. He's a big fan of on the gravel, whether it be cars, four-wheel drives, motorbikes. Back in the day, there weren't many faster than him. Unfortunately, age is getting to him now, and the reflexes aren't what they used to be. He recognises that, and he stepped back a bit. But back in the day, we bought a couple of these Chinese dirt bikes. They were both 125s. One was a 12-14 wheel combo, and the other was a 14-17 wheel combo. Naturally had to have a big wheel bike for him because he's a bigger bloke than me. But these bikes were identical in their power and that, and we were just out for some cheap fun. We had an off-road buggy at the time, and we decided between the off-road buggy, the two bikes, and my daughter's three little dirt bikes, we'd go away camping for 6 weeks. So we goes away camping, and we had people come and visit us during the 6-week expedition. And on one of them occasions, my brother turned up and come with us. But this one particular occasion, me and the Big Fella were out on our own, and we're barreling through the bush. And when there's a real close proximity race and riding in the bush, you often, if the person in front of you turns, you turn with them. It's just a bit of a habit I got into with the Big Fella. I knew if he generally took a path that I'd follow him through and I'd be right. Well, on this occasion, he went to turn, and at the last minute he changed his mind, but I'd already committed myself to this turn. So he goes to turn, flicks back, I flick in, and I just go clean into the bush, like, bounces off trees, bounces back out, look on my face like, where were you going and why was I following you? And pretty serious consequences. I busted me in on the bark busters, and lucky I had them because I slammed some trees pretty hard. But, we come back on the track, and I'm like, alright, I'll keep following him, but I'll be a bit sceptical from now on. So we're barreling back down the track about 5 minutes later, and he does it again. But this time he actually turns, and I thought he was going to do the same thing again, so I didn't this time. What did I do? Barreled straight into the bush again, wiped myself out. So after these two wipeouts, we were like, yeah, we've had enough. We'll catch up with the four-wheel drive, and we'll make our way home. So we take off down the track, and we'd only had these bikes probably 2 or 3 weeks, second, third time we're out on them. And we're barreling down the track, and we pull up next to the four-wheel drive, and when I pull up, I feel this strange feeling in the front of the bike. Luckily, I stopped when I did, because the front axle was holding on by about half an inch inside the front wheel. Had I rode probably another 200 metres, it would have popped out, for sure. So here we are, we're in the middle of nowhere. We've got the four-wheel drive, but we haven't got the trailer, it's back at camp. And the big wheel bike, it's like, what are we going to do? So I puts the back axle through, and looking around the rest of the bike, and there's nowhere to find a bolt. So we improvise. We steal a bolt off the tow bar, we cross-thread it onto the front axle. I didn't change that axle for probably a good 3 months until I got a flat tyre, because it was locked on there, didn't have a problem. But on another occasion, we went out with my brother. And my brother hadn't ridden a two-wheel bike in his life. And we had the two bikes and the off-road buggy. And dry conditions, awesome conditions, and we're barreling around this circuit out at Whipperee. And there's this big hole, gash in the earth, I don't know what you want to call it, but it would have been 7 foot deep, probably 5 foot across, and we all knew it was there, but we didn't realise that with the recent rains it washed out a lot worse. So I've come barreling down this track first, and I've spotted it and managed to clear it and thought, oh, I just made that. This could be bad. Well, I know that my brother's behind me, and so is the big fella, but I'm not sure who's in what, whether they're in the buggy or on the bike. And I clear this jump and I barrel up the top, and I get to the top of this hill and I stop, and there's no one behind me. I'm like, something's wrong. So I turn around and I head back down the hill. I want to get back to this ravine. The big fella's on my side of it. My brother's standing next to me. Big fella's holding his bike and he's looking at it like it's broken. And I instantly thought my brother had stacked the bike. But that wasn't the case. My brother was in the buggy driving, and the big fella's tried to clear the same clearing that I did on the bike, but with his weight and lack of power, he didn't make it, and he landed on the lip on the far side of this crevice, and he couldn't have put a better square edge on the rim. It blew the tyre, destroyed the tube and tyre, dinged the rim. The impact was that hard, and he was revving the motor that hard. It destroyed all the internals of the gearbox on a less than a 2-week-old motorbike. It was not covered by warranty. They refused to pay for it when we took the engine back to them and said, here's your pile of parts, because naturally we had to find out what was wrong, try and fix it ourselves. And yeah, it ended up broken. But we just got another motor and chucked it in there and went out on another expedition. On this occasion, it was raining, had been for days. We got the 4-wheel drive, we got the trailer, we got the buggy, the bikes, and we're riding through creeks and that are up to here on us. Yeah, they're like coming inside your helmet while you're riding while you're on the bike, let alone being in the buggy, which is a bit lower. When I was in the buggy, I pretty much had to grab the roll cage when we're going through the water so I could keep my head above the water. But we proceeded rallying around this track for hours, thinking we were cool as, and it started getting dark. Not a problem, we got lights on the buggy and that. You know, it was a $10,000 off-road buggy. And I come up this hill, and you come up over a crest, and then when you come back down, I got the big fella in the passenger seat, and the way it was built for him, not for me. So when I drove it, I sat on about 2 inches of the seat, clinging onto the steering wheel, and if it all went wrong, that's it, I was gone. Risk I took back then in the day, and luckily, touch wood, nothing happened. But on this occasion, I've come up over this crest, and you come back down the hill, and there's another one of these washout things. And all day long it had been getting that bit deeper and that bit deeper. Well, I've hit it at high speed. I was probably doing about 90k. It's pouring rain. There's probably 2 inches of mud on the track. And we've gone into this thing, and because we've been rallying for hours, that exhaust was so hot, and the impact of launching into this creek, water splashed up onto the whole exhaust went underwater, and it cracked and broke the pipe. I did hear it get a bit louder, didn't think much of it because it had straight cut pipes on it and big snorkel up top. We'd set it up so it was noisy and it could go underwater. And I didn't think that much of it. But when this pipe cracked, it dropped down onto the wiring of the electricals. And basically, whilst going back up the track to this killer right-hand bend,
Recording video while charging may quickly in camera.
Yeah, whilst heading up the hill, this pipe is melting all my wiring loom to pieces, and I didn't know it. So I've hooked it into this right hand corner, and as soon as I did and the pipe rolled off the wiring, I lost all power. So I've gone from full drift right hand bend, full opposite lock to the left, drifting through the corner, got then nothing. So it's instantly just thrown me straight into the trees. Well, we went through a couple of trees, bounced off one, and when we bounced off the tree, it must have separated the wires, or the engine kicked back into life anyway.
Your data isn't backed up. Add a back.
So I've turned around and put my foot down, and I managed to get it all the way back to the trailer, front wheels on the trailer, and it conked out. It took me 4 months to fix this buggy. We burnt the entire wiring loom out of it. When the pipe snapped off and dropped down onto the loom, it melted for a fuel line. It just caused chaos on this old buggy. But we got it going again, and eventually we broke it by me and the big fella jumping it. We estimate about 15, 16 foot in distance and about 7 foot in the air. And because he weighed at the time around about 140, 150 kilo, and I weighed about 50, the weight difference, we landed on a rim and it bent the rim, and then we went off the road, and we brought a transaxle, and something inside the box went and it locked itself in gear, and we could never get it out. And that was the death of the buggy. The bikes, they got destroyed about 3 or 4 times more and eventually got sold on. But that's the adventures of me and the big fella on motorbikes. We always seem to break it. You know, we went out on one occasion, we took a 4-wheel drive, 2 cars, 2 big wheel bikes, 3 little wheel bikes, the off-road buggy, and we broke everything while we're out there. Like, we even had to ring someone else to tow the trailer back into town for us. Like, bad at breaking things back in the day, and still love breaking things today. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Yarning Cars and you've listened to it all. Big fella's my adopted dad, my confidant, my best friend, and you'll hear other stories about our antics in the future. Keep ties soon until he's bye.